May 3rd, 2018. A Thursday afternoon on the big island of Hawaii, in a quiet neighborhood, the ground cracks open.
Holy
Look at that big honking crack. Notice how it cracks the ground up beyond the pavement as well, the grass.
And the street begins to erupt.
Overnight, nature's fireworks show on Hawaii's Big Island. Molten rock and flames spewing into the air, glowing lava lighting up the sky and flowing into neighborhoods.
This is freaking, I don't know, man. I've been crying all morning.
My heart is racing. I couldn't go any further than this because of the deadly fumes.
The volcano is 20 miles away. The lava comes up anyway. Between lawns and mailboxes and carports, straight out of the ground people built their houses on. Streets are not supposed to do that. Over the next 3 months, that crack will grow into a fountain of molten rock taller than a 20-story building. 700 homes, an entire bay gone from the map. And while the bottom of the volcano erupts, the top of the mountain is doing the opposite. It is collapsing. This is the story of the most destructive eruption in Hawaii in 200 years. Kilauea is the most active volcano in the United States. By 2018, it had been erupting continuously for 35 years. Since 1983, but always from the same remote vents, high on its eastern flank. Lava was normal here. Lava was 20 miles away. That neighborhood, a subdivision called Leilani Estates, was built directly on top of something called the East Rift Zone, a highway of magma running underground from the top of the volcano down to the sea. The lots were cheap. The rainforest was beautiful. About 2,000 people lived there. In March 2018, scientists noticed the pressure inside the volcano rising. In April, the lava lake at the top of the mountain overflowed its crater. A spectacle so beautiful that 10,000 visitors a day came to watch it. Nobody watching that glowing lake understood what it actually was. It was the volcano's fuel gauge, and it was about to drop. On April 30th, the vent that has been erupting for 35 years collapses into itself. The eruption that defined Kilauea for a generation is over. The magma hasn't stopped. It has changed direction. Underground, a river of molten rock starts moving east, downhill toward the ocean. Scientists track it by the earthquakes it drags along the surface. A line of tremors creeping mile by mile down the rift zone, straight toward the subdivision. On May 3rd, it arrives. The ground on a street in Leilani Estates cracks open and begins to spatter lava.
This is new, coming out of there.
And steam begins to billow from the depths.
Hawaii County orders a mandatory evacuation the same day. Neighbors go door to door, pulling people out of their homes. The next day, the volcano's south flank slips. Magnitude 6.9, the largest earthquake to hit the island in 43 years. It stretches the rift zone apart by 16 feet, and the cracks multiply. 2, 5, 10, until more than 20 of them are steaming and spattering along the streets. And then, 20 miles uphill, the mountain answers. The famous lava lake, the one that tourists photographed in April, begins to drain like a bathtub with the plug pulled. By May 10th, it has dropped out of sight entirely. The crater walls, with nothing left to hold them, start to fall in.
The Kilauea volcano firing burst after burst of volcanic ash skyward, those columns of gas and ash reaching 12,000 feet, growing more explosive this morning, dropping ash on sections of the Big Island of Hawaii in what scientists are calling the start of the biggest explosive eruption at Kilauea since 1924.
Stunning images tonight. That powerful explosion at the summit of Kilauea, shooting a plume of ash some 30,000 feet into the air.
Explosions of ash rise thousands of feet over the national park. The scientists, whose job is to stand next to volcanoes, abandon their own observatory on the rim because the earthquakes are tearing the walls apart. Here is the sentence that explains everything that happens next. The mountain is draining itself through the town. In mid-May, the drain opens fully. The old, sluggish lava of the first days is shoved aside by fresh magma arriving straight from the heart of the volcano, hotter, faster, unstoppable. On May 19th, it crosses the coastal highway and hits the ocean for the first time. The eruption now has a supply line. What it needs is a nozzle. It finds one on May 28th. All that fresh magma funnels into a single crack, fissure 8, and the neighborhood gets its own volcano. A fountain of lava, 260 feet tall. It runs at that scale for weeks. It roars like a jet engine, day and night. And builds a cone of black rock 17 stories high between the driveways. From its base pours a river of molten rock, an actual river with banks and rapids and a current. Scientists clock it at 17 miles per hour, faster than any human can run. The river runs northeast, 8 miles, swallowing roads, farms, and power lines as it goes. Whole neighborhoods lose power, water, and every road out except one. On June 3rd, it reaches the coast, at Kapoho Bay. Kapoho is the kind of place families have come to for generations. Vacation homes around a shallow, sheltered bay. Next to it, a marine conservation area. Coral gardens in water calm enough for toddlers. The lava reaches the shoreline and keeps going, straight into the bay itself. Steam clouds rise a mile high as molten rock hits seawater, and it keeps coming, hour after hour, day after day, pushing the coastline outward. When the steam clears, the bay is gone. Tide pools, shoreline, all of it.
There's no more swimming, no more bike rides, no more walking the dogs around the neighborhood. It's magical kingdom is gone forever.
Where boats used to anchor, a plain of black rock stretches out to a coast that did not exist the week before. 320 acres of brand new land where the water used to be. The numbers from those 3 months read like a typo. 13.7 square miles buried. 700 homes gone. 30 miles of road erased. Nearly a cubic kilometer of lava, 2/3 of it from that single fissure in the neighborhood. And the ocean itself turns into a weapon. Where lava meets seawater, it creates something called lays, a plume of hydrochloric acid and microscopic glass shards drifting with the wind. On July 16th, a sightseeing boat ventures close to the ocean entry. An explosion hurls a basketball-sized block of molten rock through its roof. 23 people are injured on a boat floating on the open sea. By now, everyone understands there is no safe distance from this eruption, except one man who understood it earlier and stayed anyway.
Daryl Clinton lives in Kapoho. When the fissures open near his property, he doesn't leave. His house and his neighbors sit between two active vents, and the vents are throwing lava bombs. Chunks of molten rock, some the size of refrigerators, arcing through the sky and setting homes on fire where they land. So Clinton makes himself the fire department. For roughly 2 weeks, he stands watch with a garden hose and puts out every fire the volcano starts, on his house and on his neighbors. He gets good at it. He learns the rhythm of the vents, learns to read the arc of each bomb, learns he usually has a few seconds to move. On May 19th, he is on the 3rd floor balcony of his neighbor's home when one of them breaks the pattern.
It was the most forceful impact I've ever had in my body in my life. I've been hit by big waves and various things. That was just incredibly powerful and hot. It burnt.
The impact throws him against the wall and into a chair already burning from the same bomb. His lower leg is shattered. His foot, he said, was hanging on like a hinge. A friend drags him down the stairs, gets him into a truck, and races toward the fire crews. From his hospital bed, Clinton said the obvious thing: a foot higher or lower, and it would have been over. He is the first serious injury of the entire eruption.
I just wanted to live. I didn't care if they cut my leg off down there or not.
He is also almost the only one. 700 homes, 2,000 people displaced. A river of rock through a residential district for 3 months. 0 deaths. That number was earned by the evacuation on day 1, by the neighbors going door to door, by the crews who hauled 50,000 gallons of flammable gas away from a power plant sitting in the lava's path. The volcano took everything from Leilani Estates and Kapoho, except the one thing every disaster in this series takes first.
The eruption stopped in August, almost as abruptly as it began. By September, it was declared over.
Only then did the scale of what had happened at the top of the mountain become clear. 62 times that summer, on average once every 28 hours, the floor of Kilauea's crater had dropped like a piston, each collapse releasing the energy of a magnitude 5 earthquake. More than 60,000 quakes shook the mountaintop in 4 months. When it was done, the crater had grown from 280 feet deep to 1,600, deep enough to swallow the Empire State Building, and more than doubled in width.
The USGS calls 2018 the largest eruption of Kilauea's lower East Rift Zone in at least 200 years, and the most destructive eruption in Hawaii in that entire span. Backup power, radio, stored water, the gear that carried those families through the first dark weeks is linked in the description below. Maps had to be redrawn, literally. The island of Hawaii is now 875 acres larger than it was in April 2018. What destroyed 700 homes also built new coastline, new cliffs, new black sand beaches that are still cooling today. On any nautical chart printed before 2018, Kapoho Bay is still there.
The soundings, the anchorage, the curve of the shore. Stand on that spot today, and you are standing on dry rock, on land younger than the phone in your pocket. The volcano swallowed an entire bay and built its replacement. If you'd like to help shape what we document next, channel members can vote on upcoming stories and storms. And thank you for being here. We know your time is valuable, and the fact that you choose to spend some of it watching our documentaries genuinely means a lot to our entire team. If this story stayed with you, consider sharing it with someone who might find it just as fascinating. We'll see you in the next one.